Good afternoon. Welcome to the December 6th meeting of the City of Glens Falls Planning Board. We have several items on our agenda this evening. First item on our agenda is the review and potential approval of the November 7th, 2023 Planning Board meeting. I'll start with Tom. Anything from you on this?
No.
No? Art? Anything from you? Rachel?
No comment.
Karen?
No comment.
Anything from you?
No comment.
Nina? I'm going to introduce Nina Oldenquist. She is the new architectural consultant to the planning board. Dan Brown is officially retired. Again, we thank him for his service and welcome Nina to the board. I had nothing as well, so I would make a motion that we accept the meeting for the November 7th, 2023 planning board meeting as submitted. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're all set with that. First item, do we want to do the old business first? Yes. So the first item under old business, we have to redo our advisory opinion for 4 Sherman Avenue. If you recall, when the folks from Stewart's were here, we kind of got out of sequence with the Common Council. We were a little bit ahead of them. So we want to redo that advisory opinion. So with that being said, I would make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board hereby submits following advisory opinion to the Common Council, that the council should look with favor on the application that was presented on 3 October 2023 meeting, the sketch plan review 23-0002 by Matthew Fuller Esquire, representing the owner of tax map number 302.20-21-2, commonly known as 4 Sherman Avenue, seeking to rezone the property from multifamily residential RM to general commercial GC1. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Our first item under new business is a sign review. This is sign review number 23-0010. Pursuant to City Code Chapter 180-6, Karen LeQueen, applicant regarding tax map application number, or tax map number 303.14-5-3, commonly known as 217 Dix Avenue, is seeking sign approval for this location. Is there anyone here representing this application? Please, can you come up to the microphone, state your name for the record, and tell us what your sign permit entails.
My name's Kelly Hannafin, and I'm the program director for New Journey's Structured Day Program. So we recently opened up a site at 217 Dix Ave for oversight respite care for individuals with Alzheimer's and dementia.
Okay.
So we're just trying to get the sign put on.
And the signage is going to be what's on the paper
Yes.
that was
Yep.
submitted to us, and it's just
Yep.
that part of the front facade.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to add here?
No, I don't think
Pretty
so.
good with that? Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this application? Hearing none, I will start with Ms. Oldenquist. If you could give us your 2 cents on this?
Yep, the sign is in keeping with all the other signs that are there in the mall. I guess, is it gonna be a color? Because you sent black and white, are you gonna have, is the sign
I
color?
think it's just black and white,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that it's gonna be consistent with what's there
Yeah, and
already.
the size of it is consistent
Yeah.
with what the zoning
Mhm.
regulation calls for. And I guess, you had mentioned in your application, there's also a building directory. I assume that's on the inside, not on the outside, right?
I'm sorry?
I think you mentioned there was a building directory also as part of the application. There's only one outdoor sign, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no other comments. My only thought was you're putting it up where there's an old sign.
There was an old sign there for the previous tenant, and so we're just putting our sign up there now.
So my suggestion would be if you take it down and you know how sometimes you see the outline of the old sign up there.
Mm-hmm.
They may want
You may want to put a
Just-
coat of paint.
to, they may just want to paint, it's
Oh,
on an
okay.
it's on an EIFS.
Yeah, I don't
And-
see anything right now, but I'll take a look and
Yeah.
see if that might need to be done.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Good. Mr. Lampier, anything?
No comments, everything was good.
Good.
Thank you.
Ms. Cullen?
No questions or comments?
No?
No comment, no seeker.
Good, you have to kick me tonight.
Yeah. No
Ms.
comments.
Murray?
No, that's great. No comments.
The only question I had is that it's not a lit sign, correct? It's not
No,
electronically
no.
lit in any way, it's, you're just dealing with the facade lighting to
Right.
do that. Okay, that was all I had. I would, ask somebody to put together a resolution for us for sign review.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Sign Review, hereby grant sign approval for the project identified as, 217 Dix Ave?
Yes.
That is correct.
Suite 5, Glens Falls, New York, as presented at the meeting of December 6, 2023.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Your next step in this process is the sign application or the sign permit from the city. That's issued by the building department.
Okay,
So
great.
you're all set there?
Thank you so
Great,
much.
thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is, I'm sure why you are all here. Site plan review and architectural review. This is a sketch plan review for the planning board. It is the applicant's opportunity to introduce the project to the planning board. That being said, we haven't seen this yet, so this is our first opportunity to see it. So at this meeting, they will be back for a subsequent meeting. At this meeting, this is an informational meeting, so we won't take public comment tonight. This is for everybody to hear what's going on with the project and for our planning board to be able to ask questions of the applicant and to give them some direction on what we might need as our next steps. So that being said, the microphone is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Frank Palumbo with CT Mail Associates. I don't know a best way to set this up that the public could actually see it, and I know that this gentleman has it. He took a picture of it so he could put it on online, basically.
You know what we might do, Frank, is grab one of the chairs that's down there and kind of put it behind you, and you can set it up on the chair maybe. I think there's one loose there, isn't there? Yeah, there you go. Maybe it'll stay. No, can't do that.
That'll do for the moment.
There you
I hope you can all see it. And you have hard copies of the images
Yes.
there. Yeah. So, thank you. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, this is our first visit to you. We expect that there will be more. And this is to introduce the project to all of you. The project is at 194 Broad Street. It is in the General Commercial 2, GC2 district, and the acreage is 1.66 acres. So what we are proposing is a Hoffman car wash. In general, most people are very familiar with the car washes that you are likely to have seen them. There is one that is south of here, going up in on Route 9 down in South Glens Falls, Moreau, and one to the north up in on Quaker Road. But in general, most people have a sense. The one down in Moreau is the more contemporary building that is more common with what is going in on sites now, and has been part of a steady ongoing process of with the new sites to have a certain look and a brand with the buildings. So this site is, as I think, I know there were comments, an article was posted, and everyone knows that this is where Steve's place is. and kind of an institution, and we recognize that, but also it has been up for sale for a year, and it's the intent of the owners to move on from the business there. So we understand that it's a community, something that has been part of the community. But it's a great location for us, for Hoffman's. The site is very developable for this type of use, as it is generally flat. What happens on the site is we're using an entrance that will be a pretty defined entrance where it's a little more open right now. And we're next door to the Walgreens. So the entrance will come into the site. To the immediate left, the parking area there is also the vacuum area. And again, that's a very common, if you haven't seen a new Hoffman's, like I said, the one down in Moreau, you can get a feel for what that is. And the vacuums, I think, are, they're contemporary. They are more easily used. They are not as loud as the ones that were there in the past, the big drum ones, because it's all centralized and held in a block wall enclosure so that the sound is not just going out. So that area is to the left as you immediately go in. Users of the site, generally, they will go in and either go in and wash their car first and then go to vacuum it out, may go in and just wash, and others that go in, vacuum first and then go through the wash. But on the side of the building, this lower side here, the building obviously is the yellowish mustard colored there. It's a little less than 6,000 square feet. That's a 160-foot tunnel that we have on this one here. What you do is you come into the site. Just below there, you can just make out on your plans probably the 3 arrows there. Those are 3 drive-up activated menu boards, so that it's a turnstile, lift, and that has improved the operational flow through all their sites as compared to when they had manned, employee-manned sites there. So that's new, and it works with their model of many people get the unlimited car washes and for a month, and it's just easier going through in that case. It keeps the flow going through the site rather than, and reduces some of any of the backups that they had in past generations of the types of buildings. There's a bypass lane around the site. Most of the activity is oriented on this side. We know that there was a newer building on the other side of us there, and so the amount of use of this is very low. Generally a van pull up to one of the side doors there, but again, that's just if somebody goes through and then they realize that they had stuff in the back of their pickup truck and they can't go through the car wash. It's an escape route through there. So that side we've kept very as the quieter side of the building, and we think it's all pretty quiet. We have not had. We're always asked about the sound, and we've not had any complaints come up afterward. Towns aren't calling us back and saying, "Hey, you said this wasn't going to be that loud," and the people are complaining about it. We don't get those kind of calls. So they go in and they function well. We know that our water usage is a higher usage. We use about 45 gallons on a car, 15 of which is recycled water. The recycling tank is usually buried on this side of the building so that they can reuse. It flows out from the collection pit into there and then gets reused. But there's still 30 gallons of new gallons used. So we know that we are a larger demand user, but again, we will work with the city's water department. We'll get in and meet with them once, but depending on our reception, we will move forward, and we'll meet with any of the employees, the city staff for water, wastewater, any possible implications that we may have to make sure that we're not causing a problem with that usage. In general, I don't want to go too far. I want to see what kind of questions you have for us so that we'll know what else we can do on our next submission.
Do you want to address the building at this point?
Yes, thank you.
And go through that, and then we'll start to ask our questions.
Yes, thank you. So this building, minor changes from some of the buildings, and to emphasize a little bit more of the windows on the side of the building. But the cupolas that are on the top of the building are very similar. The characteristics, for the most part, on the outside are similar to what you're seeing out there. The tunnel will be seen. This side will be from the street. Nope. This north side. So this side is the side coming out. Yes. I'm sorry, I was getting my north mixed up there. So yes, that's the side coming out, and then the other side is open for where the cars go in. We have some material selections there. I'm not the architect. That we can have someone more intelligent than me about the buildings coming if we need to talk about the specific models there. We did submit so that this is the longer elevational views. Again, more recent change to have more of the light, but again, that is facing, this is the side that faces those, that newer development with the, I believe, apartments on the upper floors. So this is the least amount of any light going away from the building, and this would be the side that faces the Walgreens side. So it keeps it interior to the site and towards the other commercial use there.
Okay. So it looks like all of the equipment room and the process area is the side that's on the escape side?
Yes.
The escape road
So
side?
these doors here, and that's the kind of thing where a van will pull up if they need certain equipment in the equipment room, any of the deliveries are all on that side, and that is the side where all the mechanicals are.
Okay. Anything else right now?
No, I really, we want to, we know we'll be back. We know we're going to come with questions that are brought forward to us. We know we're going to do our investigations with the independent departments in the city to make sure that water, wastewater, anything else that we're doing. I think there may be some dialogue that we need to have, Nina, in terms of the design standards.
That's where I'm headed. That's where I'm headed next.
So we'll set those meetings up before we make our next submission. Anything that we can find out now is great.
Yeah.
And then we know that general concerns are often how traffic is handled at the site, what kind of impacts there might be. I think there's probably some, I think some of the comments that might have been posted are about the fact that we have a car wash across the street. Well, they're really two different styles of car wash. We were talking ahead of the meeting about that comment in particular and saying out in Amsterdam on 30 or 30A, I'm not sure, there's a Hoffman's that was built there about 10 years ago. And at the time across the street, there was a similar type of car wash, the older style, get out, do your own type of wash down and stuff. More self-service, yes, thank you. And so that is thriving. It is not like the Hoffmans went in and they just died out. It's a different type of user, different type of entities that say, this is the style I want and this is the style I want. If it's crowded over at one place, they can feel like, oh, I'll go over there. I can get in there quicker. Whichever it is, they're both still operating very well. And as the manager from across the street at the Hoffman says, they're always busy across the street. So it does not necessarily lead towards they come in, over-dominate, and others go out. The reality is, I think that you probably see this in many, many places, is that people want to take care of their cars. There are not just Hoffmans, but Tidal Wave and others that have come, people want to get that, that grime off their car, the salt off their cars. They want to keep it's a major investment that people make in their cars, and they want to keep them clean. So there's not going to be a shortage of users for this facility or the facility across the street. It's just, I think you can see that wherever you go. So,
Okay.
all right.
I will start with Ms. Oldenquist.
Sure. I think the massing of the building is reasonable, and the material selection, the split face block, I mean, that's pretty consistent with the Walgreens next door, and those glass panels are all nice looking materials. I had some, when you get further down the line, we can talk about specific colors of some of the
Yep.
other elements, but I think, we're not there yet. And then the rest of my comments are really just questions that I would put out there for the board to discuss.
If I can answer on my will, and if I can't.
Sure,
then-
yeah, absolutely.
Or if it's more appropriate for the board, I'll just stick.
Yeah. Well, my questions are having to do with the fabric of the neighborhood. There's a little bit of tree coverage at the back of the site, and there's Third Avenue, which is residential neighborhood back there. So I'm wondering if
Into the back of the site, you do not have to go and use that up. We may have in that back area some stormwater detention, so I don't want to give the impression that none of that is used, but I think it's very reasonable to expect that we can provide some good screening and a buffer back at that site, back at the back end of the site. Anything we don't have to touch. As a landscape architect, I like to leave the existing trees if they are, if they're not the nicest, growth that's there, if it's just kind of overgrown. We can do other things to supplement that. We have at times done some strategic placement of fencing, headlights this time of year. There's not a lot of times when you're going that is outside of daylight, but they do get a lot of their traffic is from people at lunchtime. But still, if you were to go after work, and that's the other thing about our sites, we find that they're not a generator. They are, people decide they're on the road, they're gonna go, oh, I'm gonna stop in and get, I've gone to Hannaford across the street, before I go home I wanted to get my car done. They're already on the street, so they will go at a time that might be after dark right now. And so those lights would be heading in that direction. So we usually look to do some sort of strategic placement of some fencing, because the headlights are best blocked by a solid fence, as compared to if we plant trees that will grow and will fill in. The immediate impact of a fence is usually more beneficial to the neighbors.
so something to think about. And then I guess another question is, what hours will the vacuums operate? I know there is some noise. It's similar to the ones up on Quaker Road where it's central, it goes all the time, and then you pull the hose off.
They were just replaced this up at Quaker Road with the more advanced, newer style. And so, I remember that because I had to go up there and look at it when it was complete, and all of that funneled down to one end.
Right.
And so, yes, it will be
So
similar.
there's noise. I'm just curious if there are certain hours that the vacuums operate. Do they shut off at 9 o'clock at night, or are they, rolling at 1
Yes, they
o'clock
do.
If you want to vacuum your car?
They are on during the operational hours. At one point in time, they had been, they would be allowed to go in there anytime, but we did find that in certain places that was not seen as the most attractive thing. So what happens is the lights are programmed to go off, I believe about 15 minutes or half an hour after the store closes. So if somebody had gone through the wash right at the end and then they want to go and vacuum, it stays on that long.
Do you guys have decibel information about
Yes,
what the
yes,
vacuums are?
and we can provide that.
That might help
Yep.
people understand better, what that impact is.
And we did also make the this was an issue, and I do want the board to think of this as well. The vacuums are out front, closest to the road, where
The noises.
the noise is. We did not want to have it in the back of the site for that purpose of not having it where the people are.
Right.
So I think that the noise decibel here, it will be additive, but it will really be more commensurate with the volume of what the
Street noise.
what the street noise is.
Okay, Brian, we've had the same question. I'm Ron.
Can you come up?
So with regard to vacuums, we turn them off, like Frank said, at the time of operation. We allow 15 minutes for people vacuuming or the last person through the tunnel. We've looked at decibels. The road will be louder than the vacuums. We can give you decibel readings for the actual producers, but in practice,
Yeah, and I
you
just-
won't even, you won't even hear the vacuums over the road noise. And to Frank's point, they're pushed right to the front, so the people behind us, they basically won't hear them. The part of the business that faces the people that live behind us is the entrance to the tunnel. It's the quietest part of the operation. So what noise there is all out toward the street. And we think that works best for the neighborhood.
Ron?
Yeah.
For the records, for our records, can you just state your name again?
Ron Sloan, I'm the president of Compton Development.
Thank you.
So if you have more questions for Ron, he's here.
Don't go too far.
Have you thought about any sort of screening in front of the vacuums right along the sidewalks there? I know you're 20 feet off.
We have not detailed that yet, but we will. And I think the other thing, as a landscape architect, one of the things I've always enjoyed working with Hoffman's on is that they care about the aesthetic of their site. So much so that they actually have, I think they still do have their own greenhouses. And they grow those plants that they put on the site so that they can get the immediate impact. It's not like places where you'll put in your stuff in the spring and then you'll wait for it to grow. They are committed to their sites that way. Sometimes you'll see where they'll have potted small trees on their sites, and those go back to the greenhouse to be brought out again in the spring. That's a commitment to the landscaping on all of their sites, and they are not. They do have grass and lawn areas, but we will provide that detail of the planting areas. But I think in general, their commitment to their sites is, I think, pretty self-evident in the sites that already exist.
The reason I bring it up is because, and this is just sort of an observation that Glens Falls did a South Street, Broad Street corridor master plan at a certain point. It was 2020 when that came out. And so this section of road was identified as a corridor with a certain, intended to be pedestrian friendly, small businesses and all of that. So I guess I sort of put that out there as a question about what the impact on, trying to improve the pedestrian nature of that corridor, having the vacuums there, and,
No, I think we can. I think we can do a certain level of screening and a certain level of pedestrian aesthetic. What we generally try not to do is completely hide the buildings. So doing.
because you have to see yourself.
Yeah, well, not just the sign. As a driver on the sites, this is one of the things where if you go to a place where really intensive screening and reductions of signs and everything else, and people don't know where to turn in. You know, it's just,
Right.
it's just one of those things that when you're thinking about traffic from a standpoint, you want the best conditions for both situations, the pedestrians, but also that a driver is not going to be confused because they can't even see the building.
No, I think
So it's-
everybody understands it's a
yeah.
commercial corridor,
Right.
but just from the pedestrian point of view.
Yes,
In
yes.
small scale. just
No, I think we
sort of
can,
Thinking about that.
we can provide a detailed image of that, not just the standard planting plan. We can give sort of a photo simulation of what we would conceive at that point. And if there are specifics in the corridor study, we'll review those with you and make sure we're going with the right stuff.
And I guess my last question is, did you do a detailed study of the stacking of the cars? In other words, so I was curious about the pace at which, when the thing's going full blown, how quickly are the cars?
It's something we have to
Circulating
do
through.
generally on every site. We get asked that question very often. So not at all meant to say, hey, we already do that. You know, we will show that on the plan. So again, this was the first sketch plan. We know exactly how long it takes each vehicle to go through based on the length of the tunnel. And that's the easiest thing for us to apply to that. They're also equipped with emergency shutoff if anything were to go wrong in the tunnel, or there was some kind of backup. Let's just say there was something that was backing up things out in the street, not like an emergency type of situation. Well, if the cars get through there, first off, they stop sending them through at that point of the tunnel, so they don't go in. But if there were cars in there and something was backing up, there's a shut off, and that happens there. But we can show exactly how many cars are in that stacking and give you the data between the amount of time it takes for someone to go through the menu board, get through that turnstile, how much stacking there is behind there. There's a bar here to make sure that somebody doesn't get in with too large of a vehicle. So that also starts to prevent things that could cause complications once you get into the site there. But we always do that not only for the board to have consideration of, but Hoffman's wants to know that we have the right length there. So we do that analysis all the time, and we can provide that further with the next submission.
Yeah, I think that is a concern that people have. That corridor can get pretty busy during certain times of the day, during shift changes at the hospital, for example. All of a sudden there's a whole lot of traffic, and so just being able to show, put people's minds at ease. I think a concern is traffic going to get backed up.
So to Frank's point, we added a third bay, a third kiosk. So most of our stores either have 2 or 3 teller kiosks. We added a third one here. The other thing that's happening in our business, we're between 70 and 75% unlimited. So there's no interaction. The customers drive through, the gates come up. So all of our production, we've seen a measurable increase. So we don't have any concerns. We don't want cars on the street either. So that's why we originally in the first plan we had 2. We said to Frank, can you wait and add the third one just to be certain? I'm not sure we need it, but we're going to have it, and it absolutely will eliminate any backup onto the street. And again, we're 70-some%. Cars drive up, it reads the RFID tag, the gate goes up, people drive through. It's a 160-foot tunnel. It's long. We run fast. We don't anticipate any problems backing up. We're sensitive to that. And the building's built to life, for speed.
And I'll add that because it came up when we were doing a recent project up in Queensbury, people brought up Quaker Road, and I heard somebody say they used the Quaker Road site. And one of the things that was, the first reaction was somebody took a picture when they were on the shoulder, and the snow banks were there, and we knew exactly what weekend it was, and we knew exactly that it was the peak time frame. Well, it was also the peak time frame, and we pointed out at that time that was why we wanted to still add, stores to, separate and distribute the load on that. And the other thing was that, as I mentioned, Tidal Wave had just taken over one just down the road from there, probably pretty close to your office, I think, Keith.
Yeah, it's the one that's down, exactly.
So the fact that was closed for some time while they were waiting to get their permits, so it had been an operational one. And so that also caused more demand at the Quaker Road store. So I would not be surprised if people brought up that as oh wait, that's a real, but that was something that was known. It was known why it was happening, and so we, as Ron just said, we've been I'll give them the credit, have been continually finding solutions to diminish the amount of, because as he said, they don't want the cars in the street either. That's a danger for them as well. So everything that they're doing with these kiosks, with this timing through, is intended to minimize that to almost zero. So it's a conscious thought and a conscious effort.
I mean, I guess knowing that that's a concern, the more, data that you can show with that
Right.
study next round would
Right.
then allow people to understand that.
Right.
I don't have any other,
Okay.
no other comments?
I'll start with Mr. Landry.
Actually, a lot of the concerns I had, I think needed covered. The noise, the operating hours. You've got residential in the back, you've got residential on the side. What are the hours that they're operating? What time do you close at night?
Might as well just stay on.
Yeah,
Might as well
yeah.
stay on.
We close at 7 o'clock. Daylight saving times is a trigger for us. So we are 8 to 8 in the summer hours, if you will, and we close at 7 p.m. Like this time of year, we're closing all of our locations at 7 p.m.
Okay.
6 o'clock on Sunday, if that matters, or whatever.
Another, again, I guess a lot of it's just overlap from Nina's conversation. That's a real, it's a busy intersection. I can see there's gonna be certain times of the day that you're either not gonna wanna come out and go right. I would assume that'd be in the morning, and you're probably not gonna wanna go left about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think, that's one of the concerns. And I guess just one other one too was as far as some kind of separation or fencing. Because you've got commercial on one side, which I don't think is a problem. But in the back and to the side, you've got kind of a residential type application. Which kind of just goes into the lighting, the spillage from the site, just from the area lighting. And, we mentioned headlights, too, coming through. So again, I guess it's just kind of an overview of what Nina had outlined.
All set now?
Yep.
Art?
Did I get the number in this building is 160 cars an hour, or is that what it's 180 feet long, but how many cars an hour go through this place?
The length was what I was talking about, the 160-foot tunnel.
Okay.
All right, so
we control that by several ways. One of them is what we call track speed. So when we're busy, we turn the track speed up a little bit. We turn it up to the point where we feel like it doesn't diminish quality. So it's not a wide range. It's probably 30 to 40 cars per hour, or the track speed changes 30 to 40 cars per hour. So my guess is here we'll probably run it to where we process 140, 150 cars an hour if we have them. So again, cars backing up onto roadways was a problem we had years ago. We really don't see it anymore, other than every once in a while in Queensbury, that was just kind of a weird situation. We won't see it this year.
I have passed Queensbury.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
I was just looking at the numbers for water then. It's a pretty high demand. Have you guys met with the city water department?
we have not yet. We intend to. We know we're a high demand user, and we will investigate with them any specific conditions that have to be applied to our site. Obviously, we don't want to go somewhere where there's not going to be the water. That's we want to make sure of that as well.
The reason that this keeps coming up, just so you guys are aware, is that there is there's a clarity issue that's gone on in the past year with turbidity in the water, and the explanation that we've gotten as a community from the water department is that there is an unidentified high demand user that has caused a significant amount of flow. They just don't know where it is yet. They've been able to figure, that's the explanation that we've all been given to this point. And it's caused turbidity in the water. So they're in the process of, I don't think that the water department or the water and sewer board has had that come up yet. Yeah, so
Yeah, we,
it hasn't been identified.
I heard that this might be an issue, and I spoke with Jim Edwards, who's one of our civil engineering VPs, runs the Glens Falls branch. We've done a lot of work with the city and the water department, and that was our first intention, is to get in and see what is it likely, how do we affect it, and then is there anything we can do about it? Obviously we can't fix a citywide problem, but we can at least identify what it means at this location.
Right.
And will that cause any other problem?
And we're in 29 different municipalities right now. We've never heard of this.
Yeah.
It's never-
So, and this is something that is, I mean, in the 35 years that I've lived here, this is really about the first year, other than when they're flushing the hydrants in the
Right.
spring and in the fall, you get some turbidity in the water. This is the first year that it's happened here that I'm aware of. May have happened a little bit last summer as well, but it's something that, you know, we're still looking to figure out where it's coming from. So again, I think speaking with the city engineer, Jeremy Schneibel is the city
Yep.
engineer. It's you know, getting him involved and you know, letting the engineers talk to the engineers, I think is critical.
And
The other item that I will bring up that I noticed is there's been a lot of comments about is the infrastructure in the city on that area, if it's equipped to handle something like this. Well, Broad Street was just redone 4 years ago, 5 years ago, been a number of years now, but all of the infrastructure on the Main Street corridor was redone down to Hudson Avenue. And that's been done in the last few years. So all of the infrastructure and everything down through there has been redone relatively recently.
And one of the other things that reclamation tank does is, now that water would not go back into the water system, it's all self-contained on site.
Once it's
But
on site.
once it's, but that also helps settle out any solids through the wash process, and then that can be properly vacuumed out and disposed of. Because the water that they want to use in that reclamation, they want that to get to a clean standard, mixed back in, because they want good quality car washes. And so, but it does eliminate some of the sedimentation that could conceivably get into a sewer system.
Right. Ron, do you still have big sand separators?
We do, actually, well, and we have a new reclaim system now that we're putting into our stores. So of the wash process, about 15 gallons is reclaimed water, and we're working hard to increase that. After the first of the year, we're going to begin testing it actually to increase it, to see if we get to be more and more. We think that's where we want to go as a company, that's where we want to go.
Mhm.
We just have to get there smart when we can't hurt quality.
Sure.
But we're about 15 gallons, and that we'll go north of that, I believe.
Art?
No, a lot of the questions were asked before. Again, the traffic on there, it is busy. See how that works out. This is just an informational thing. I know we're gonna get a lot of input from the public here at the next meeting. You've done a great job at your other stores, so your exterior lighting, that's gonna go off when it goes out. We might have a couple of lights left on at night, so it won't be a factor for the neighborhood. The water department thing, I mean, last, we're going through this in the next month, we'll hear from them. 4,000 gallons going into the treatment plant an hour. If you guys are running at peak capacity, do we have that available to us here? I don't know, that's for them to decide. We'll go from there.
I agree with everything, so I won't rehash it, but I share all the same concerns. The only thing I would add in terms of like architectural is that we have really you know, asked a lot of people to put red brick on the building, like your neighbors right next door to the east, had to come back several times to try to get that right, because we do have a lot of brick in the city, and it is sort of the entrance of the city, so I think that maybe that might be a consideration to put that into your architectural review.
Okay, we'll work on that to show representatively what we think, why we do what we do and how it matches, but thank you for bringing that to our attention. And we'll see that we can get the aesthetic that you want and we want.
Good. Ms. Cody?
I think everyone has hit my biggest concerns, which is traffic and water. So I don't have much to add. And brick.
Red brick. That's what you're confused.
You guys all made it easy on me, I can tell you that, yeah. Same concerns, you know, that we've already addressed. I don't think we really need to beat it up too much. I do have a quick question. With all the reclaiming of the water and not only just turbidity and solids, but also, you know, oils and so on, is there like a DEC permit associated with this project as well? For any type of possible retainage of you know.
To my knowledge, we have never been required
Okay.
to do anything.
Okay.
There are not.
Okay.
If you were on-site discharging,
Right.
if it was on-site, yes. If it's being done to a municipal system, it's.
But not otherwise.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All set with that?
Yes. Thank you.
So, again, I think that most of the questions that I have have been answered. I would like to just kind of go through the list that I've been kind of compiling these as we go through. So just, if there's anything that I've missed here, somebody please speak up. So, things that we would be looking for going forward would be a green space and landscaping plan. Something that's a detailed green space, landscaping, fencing plan, a lighting plan showing where the lighting is, what the hours of the lighting would be. Hours of operation, Ron, I think you answered for us, but again, I think that would be something that, you know, in a narrative would be a good thing to have. The decibel volume for the vacuums.
We got those, yeah.
Yep. A traffic study. You've got traffic engineering studies to show what's going on and how many cars you're running through there. Obviously a sign off or some response from our city engineer, and you're talking with them. The Board of Public Safety and the Fire Department. I didn't get any comments back. PJ, do you know if this set of plans has gone to Public Safety and Fire Department?
They are included on the email chain.
Okay. I would like to get something back from the Fire Department, just stating that they've reviewed it and they feel that if they need access to the site, that they're good with that. One note that I put down that nobody's really mentioned yet, I know that maybe it was Art or Tom mentioned it about making left-hand turn coming out. That's going to be your biggest snag that I can foresee, is that somebody trying to come out of this facility and make a left across traffic to head back towards the Northway. I personally would look at 2 out lanes, 1 in and 2 out, so that you have a left hand, or restrict it to right hand turn only.
We just added that at another site.
And that to me, I think is a better solution.
Yeah.
Somebody coming out has to turn right, they get into traffic and they can figure out, if they're going back to the Northway, they can figure out how to get to the next light and turn around and go back.
Yeah, so as long as we are given permission to make that extra, it really only works out to about, because I think we went with, instead of 2 12-foot lanes, we went with 12 coming in and then 2 10.5 going out. So it doesn't get that much wider. It doesn't eat up that much more space.
Right.
But it does provide a lot of benefit.
Yep. And especially.
You're actually restricting the entrance. Once they're now, it's wide open.
Could be
Correct.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frank's talking about, we just did it in Bennington, And I think we had, what, maybe 3 feet, 2.5
Yeah,
feet?
yeah, it
It's
turned out.
not even
Because
noticeable.
that was it, we had two 15-foot wide lanes, which was their standard entrance lane. And then we asked them, could we go with an 11-foot coming in and two 11-foots, one left hand, one right hand? And they said, great, and it was only 3 feet wider than what we
Yeah,
had
for,
the first
for
one.
the, yeah.
How would
and I
you feel
agree.
about the right?
How would you, yeah, how would you feel about right only?
It
Or right
would be
hand?
our second choice,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
We'll do the data that runs to show that we have a gap analysis that will tell us how many lefts can be made and that we have appropriate stacking on the left-hand turn lane, and then we'll
We
present
just-
that to you, so.
Correct. We just know, living here, we
Right.
know what Broad Street, we know what happens out
Right.
there. And so, I mean, to me, you have there's a turn lane on Broad to make a left to get into your site. And the issue that I can foresee stacking wise is if you've got people coming from the northway making a right to come in, and you have several people stacked up in that turn lane to go in. But again, that's what the turn lane is for. DOT will tell you, DOT engineering will tell you that you can stack up a certain amount of cars there before it
Right.
becomes a hazard.
Right. And one of the things that we'll look at is the next intersection into the city.
Correct.
Because if somebody turns right there and they want to go the other way, that's where they're going to want to make a left and cut through somewhere else. So we want to make sure we don't cause a subsequent problem
Correct.
by trying to solve a certain problem. We'll take a more holistic look at it.
Thank you.
Meaning the cut-throughs,
Yes.
Yeah.
creating cut-throughs?
Yeah.
I would also take into account the fact that the Walgreens has an exit where people are pulling out
That
right
was,
there.
yeah, that was the other thing that I was wondering about is just the proximity to the Walgreens. Again, I think that I think you're far enough apart there, but again, that's something to look at. The question was brought up about pedestrian activity. I can say that as you said, the curb cut, for all that it is right now, runs from Walgreens to where Steve's place is. There is a sidewalk across there, but it is all, it's free for all in and out of it. And this certainly cuts that down. The sidewalk stays, according to this plan, the sidewalk is there. So pedestrian activities would actually be enhanced because you have a narrower crossing, and then there's a significant amount of green space between the walking surface and where your first aisle of vacuums are. It looks like it's about 20 feet of green space, which does not exist now. Okay, so to me, I think that's a safety thing, and where the existing building is right up on Broad Street. I mean, the front of Christine's building now is literally on the sidewalk. This building is now set back 124, almost 124 feet. I think you're behind the Walgreens, and it looks like you would be about equal to the back section of the 4-story building that's
Right.
to your immediate east.
Right.
And that, to me, site-wise, helps significantly. It opens up the front of that site significantly so that there's a lot of visualization there. Being able to open that up and have it be, as opposed to a building right on the sidewalk, which I think is a significant help. So those were the items that I had. Did I miss anything that anybody was concerned about? Red brick. I know there's a couple people here who are, yeah, we did, I say that kind of in jest. The building that's to your immediate east, the Broad Street Commons.
Yep.
When that was here before us several years ago, we went through a significant amount of back and forth with them on the design of it because, and the same with the well now and the Walgreens. There is a significant amount of brick in this community, red brick. It's fairly common for this. If it can be worked into the design of your building, that would be super for us. It's just something that we kind of take into account when we're looking at.
So we probably won't have a traffic study in time for the January meeting, so we'd be on your February meeting. Would that be the public hearing
Yeah.
as well? So we do the public hearing, final approval in February if all goes well?
I would think, I mean, we'll have to see where we're at as far as, getting all these items back to us and if we're,
Yeah,
comfortable
we
with the
looked
answer.
at the schedule and thought, getting a traffic study
Yep.
prepared by December 20th for the January 2nd meeting was not going to be.
And PJ, correct me if I'm wrong, so this being a returning applicant, knowing that they're coming back to us, if they don't have everything ready by the 20th,
Oh, okay, okay.
we can stretch, we can kick that down the road a little bit for
The
you.
deadline's really for new applicants to make sure that they don't show up half-cocked.
Okay. Well,
Because you would be under old business at that point, and unlike other municipalities, I know it's 60 day turnover. So.
I'll tell Ron that it'll take us 45 days. He'll ask me to do it in
In
30,
30.
and then if
And
we
you'll
have
get
it all
and
done
you'll
in
get it
time, we'll get
you'll
it
get
to
done in 15, I
PJ.
get it.
It's already been referred to the county.
It has been referred to the county, so that was one thing that I wanted to bring up. This project, when it was submitted to this board, did go to the county. The county came back with, based on the application provided to Warren County Planning, it appears the application property is approximately 375 feet from the Glens Falls city line and town of Queensbury municipal boundary, consistent with General Municipal Law 23-NN. If application property is within 500 feet of an adjacent municipality, notice is to be sent by mail or electronic transmission to the clerk of the adjacent municipality 10 days prior to the hearing. I'm not sure if any of this got sent to the town of Queensbury.
It did not, but it
So,
will be for the next meeting.
when you make your next, we'll send this along. It's just it's a general intermunicipal thing. If we're within 500 feet of the boundary, we let the town know. If they have something that's within 500 feet, they let us know. Warren County Planning does not have, the proposed development, Warren County Planning recognizes that the proposed development meets the requirements outlined in the City of Glens Falls site plan application. It may be beneficial to provide a site plan that includes the property boundary lines and configuration of the new structures, parking, access, and access on the parcel. Other than that, they had no county impact. Seeker?
I would classify it as unlisted,
Okay.
and we'll do the short form, and the applicant's already supplied that.
Outside of that, signage, I know you've got signage on the front of the building. Any freestanding signage? We want to know.
Just direction.
Just directional.
We'll
You
give you
won't,
a-
you won't have the big kiosk like Maple Road has?
Well, yes, we will. So we'll give you a full site plan. That's a good question.
And we could make that brick.
Maybe that's a good start.
Good start. I can hear these two right now. That's a great start. Yeah, so those, I think that's a pretty comprehensive list. I think you've heard our feedback on it. Obviously, there's been feedback from the community, and I'm sure that when we're back for the full site plan review, there'll be additional feedback that we get from the local people.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. I think that is I would make a motion that we table the application for Hoffman Development Corporation representing Steve's Double B for 309.11-5-42, commonly known as 194 Broad Street, at the meeting of 6th December 2023. Any second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Today's the 5th, I'm sorry. 5 December. Was there any other items for the good of the board that we needed to go over? We got rid of that?
Yeah,
We got that work done? Because we were ahead of the county council. They hadn't asked for advisory.
Next meeting was interest. Whenever that is.
Okay, we're still in session, so if you have things to talk about, if you could step out into the lobby, that would be great. Thank you. I think for the good of the board, I just have one last thing that I would like to say from a personal and a board standpoint. Prior to Dan Bruno being the chairman of this board was my father-in-law. My father-in-law served as the chairman of the planning board for, I believe, a little over 20 years. He was also a common council member for 8 years, for 2 terms. He passed away on Friday. The dedication that my father-in-law, Bud Taylor, gave to the city of Glens Falls was enormous. He was the founder and the chair of the Crandall Park Beautification Committee. He was highly involved in the community. Taylor and Leonard Insurance Company is the company that he formed with his son, my brother-in-law Nick. They still operate over there, and just the amount of dedication that Bud put into this city was enormous. When he retired from this board, I pretty much took his spot. Bob Regan was the mayor at that point, and Bud recommended me to take his seat, and he stepped down. So I'd be remiss if I didn't at least acknowledge the fact that he put a significant amount of time in for the city, and we certainly thank him for everything that he did. Anything else for the good of the board? PJ, you do have something.
That is correct.
So, Phil Kanslari, Director of Building and Codes. There's something I'd like to bring up to the attention of the board. I wanted to talk to you about this beforehand, but I know you were running late. There is a provision in the planning code for a rehearing of a approved site plan application. I am referring to the site plan application that was approved in 2014 for 207 Maple Street, North Country Snow and Ice Management. There's been significant problems with that lot, and there were terms that they agreed upon in the original site plan approval that have not been upheld. Adhered to, and the scope and size of the business is also massively increased from what was originally. So I would like to ask the board to, when there is a change in circumstance or new information with respect to a particular site plan upon motion initiated by any member and adopted by not less than a majority of all members, the planning board may vote to give notice and hold one rehearing to review any order, decision, or determination. With the amount of public backlash and that we're getting with this property, I think it's time to do that. And my question for Karen was, as this is just a procedural vote, does this need to be publicly noticed before we hold that vote? I have the, here you go. It's second page.
I would think, and again, I don't want to overstep here. I would think that if it is an enforcement action that hasn't been taken care of to this point, and the enforcement action has been asked for, then yes, I think that it could be something that would be brought back to this board as an enforcement action initiated by the building and or planning and zoning.
The motion has to be made by a member and adopted by not less than a majority. Then the rehearing would be publicly noticed.
So we're asking for that.
The motion for the rehearing does not have to be publicly noticed, but the actual rehearing gets publicly noticed. Does that answer your question?
Yes. So my department's asking that we hold that motion.
Someone on the board to make an application for a rehearing of that project.
Correct.
Is that something that we should get in writing from planning and zoning?
What might be helpful is that you send the request to the board next month in the packet under new business and why. Like, what do you want the rehearing to entail?
Absolutely.
Is it hours of operation, sound?
Jump on the site.
Yeah, it's something that came up like 2 days after the deadline, once I had the agenda and everything put back together. And it's been something that was, my predecessor had taken the lead on before he left last year. So I wanted to at least get the board's attention so we can get moving on
I think
this.
you should make a written application to the board with a copy of the site plan approval, and
and then a list of the complaints and why you're asking for a rehearing.
Absolutely.
That can be on the next agenda, then we can tell them they must come back in for the rehearing.
They either, well, they would either have to comply
Yep.
with what was approved, or they have to come back.
Yeah. All
I
right.
think that's the best procedure.
Perfect. Thank you for your guidance.
Thanks. Sorry, I wished I had remembered that when you told me that up front. You should have thrown something at me. Hey.
It's all right.
Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Brian McClure. My wife and I own 75 3rd Street, which backs up to this property. The concern I want to raise at first is I had some questions, but this was supposed to be a public hearing.
Tonight was just a sketch plan review. The public hearing will be when the actual site plan application has been filed.
Okay, so that's incorrect on the
That was
invitation that
incorrect
we
on
got.
that. That is correct.
Okay, because there was a number of people here who had questions.
And that's why I made the statement at the beginning that this is sketch plan review for tonight with the initial application coming to the board so that we can get a feel for what it is. Because we had a ton of questions as well. So,
Okay.
okay? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am?
I was told by my contractor that they were gonna be reviewing my sign tonight.
Which sign is that? Please step up.
It's for the Artistry of Face for 481 Glen Street. They said they couldn't come tonight, so I should show up.
I didn't, that
It's not
wasn't
in our
part of our application.
Do you know when it
Sorry.
was submitted?
They said it was submitted last month and they were supposed to come here tonight, but they couldn't make it, so they told me to come. We had our grand opening today. and we
Right, I saw.
Yeah, no, I saw that too. We did not have anything in our application package.
Okay.
That came through from that. So what I would do is check with the city, building code department tomorrow morning
Sure.
and find out. Yeah, I know, I wish I had asked you before PJ left, I could have grabbed him and found that out. But I'm wondering if perhaps they decided that didn't need to come to us and they just issued
If it's a
the,
conforming
if
sign.
it's a conforming sign, then it wouldn't have to come.
Yeah, and he had approved it already, I think, so.
Oh,
Then you should be fine. You shouldn't have to come here. I'm sorry.
When you
Well,
make
no,
an
that was a very
application-
interesting meeting.
Right, when you make an application for a sign permit, if it's a conforming sign, you would get your permit issued by building and codes. If it's a non-conforming and you're asking for something that doesn't comply, that's when it
That's
comes
when it
to
comes to
planning
us.
board for the board of sign review. But if it's approved, you should just be getting your sign permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call building and codes.
Yeah, I would just check with PJ tomorrow and find
I'm
out.
gonna chase him down.
Yeah, if you chase him down, we couldn't have gotten too far.
Sounds like he's getting yelled at.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you. Anything else? All good? Okay, then I will make a motion to adjourn the December 5th, 2023 planning board meeting. Can I get a second? All in favor? Any opposed? See you.